In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to pipe these gorgeous big full daffodils over your whole cupcake. You've got this lovely frayed edge details to the trumpet in the middle, some little leaves around the edges. They look really striking. For the petals I'm using a GG 105. It's a straight piping tip, medium size. If you haven't got one, you could use a Wilton 124 or a 125. You'll have a fat end at the bottom, but you'll create the same shaped petals. For the centres, I like to use a curved piping tip because I like the top bit to sort of point outwards, and this piping tip does the work for you. This one is a Gem 122. If you haven't got one of these, you could use a Gem 121 or a 123. It's the same shape. If you don't want to use a curved tip, you can just use a petal tip and that will work just as well. To fill in any gaps, I've just got a number 4 round with some green buttercream. Start off by crumb coating your cupcake in green, and then I'm going to use a little cocktail stick just to mark out where I want 6 petals to go. You can eyeball it, but if you mark them in, you've got a little guide that you can use and you can space out your petals evenly. So I've just made 3 lines on the cupcake. I'll just give that a little wipe off because you want to use that for the trumpet, so make sure you've got your cocktail stick. Take up your GG 105, whichever petal tip you're using, push all the buttercream down to the bottom of the bag, make sure it's nice and tight and that your piping tip's nice and clean before you get started. I'm going to create each petal in sort of a diamond sort of shape, so I'm going to come up, out to a point, turn the cake, come back down and then back to where I started. So it's like a 4-part movement. So I'll start near the middle and I'm going to touch down on the cake, come out, up to a point, turn the cake, back to the middle and then back down to the point where I started. The next one I'm going to come up the side of that first petal, so come up, out to a point, back down to the middle and back down to the point. Come up the side, out to a point, back down to where you started off. And don't worry about these little gaps in the middle, we're going to put another petal over the top anyway. So I'm sort of turning the cake as I pipe them. So out, up to a point, out, back down and back down to the point where you started. So there are 6 petals on your cake. Now just give your piping tip a wipe off if you've got any buttercream on there. And make sure your bag's nice and tight. Just have to readjust mine here. Now I'm going to put some petals over the top. I'm going to go exactly over the top of them. So I'm going to touch down, squeeze, come out, up, out and down. Out, up, out and down. I'm squeezing a little bit harder this time because I've got my markers there, so I know where I'm going. And then you feel that gap in the middle of the petals. So up the side of the previous petal, come up, out to the top, back round and down, up and out to a point, out and back down. And there's your 6 petals on your daffodil. Now to put the trumpet on, I'm going to take up my Gem 122, whichever piping tip you're using, and I'm going to hold it upright so that the curved part of the tip is going to come outwards as a pipe. So I'm going to keep the piping tip upright like this as a pipe. So have all your buttercream down to the bottom of the bag, make sure it's nice and tight and that you've got that right angle. And then take up your cupcake and just practice turning it in your hand. I'm going to pipe this all in one movement. So just give it a little turn. I've just got my fingers supporting underneath and I'm turning it with my thumb and forefinger. And then I'm going to pipe the center on. So I'm going to touch down in the middle, keeping the piping tip upright like this. Touch down, and then as I squeeze, I'm going to move the cake, and that motion is going to give a nice jagged edge. Now I'm going to just wipe off my piping tip, and I'm going to put one more piece of trumpet on. And if you can't turn the cake all the way around, you can do it like this. So just touch down, pipe as far around as you can, stop and come off, turn the cake and just go again. So if you can't turn the cake all the way around and pipe that first bit, just do it like that. It doesn't matter. Take up a little cocktail stick, and then I'm just going to really gently go into the middle and eke out the top part of that trumpet. I'm going really, really gently, just smushing those two together, and I'm using like the side of the stick, not the pointy part. And it's doing this that gives you that lovely sort of frayed edge to the trumpet that makes it look frilly. So when you've gone all the way around, I've forgotten the stamen tip, sorry. I've got a little bag here and I've snipped off a couple of millimeters off the end of the bag. If you want to use a piping tip, I'd use a number 2 or 3 round, just a small one. Push all the buttercream down to the bottom and give it a twist. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then I'm just going to touch down in the middle, squeeze and lift to add some stamens. And for this colour, I've added a touch of sunflower yellow to the yellow, so it's a little bit darker. Just take off any stragglers, make sure it looks full. So there's the daffodil, and all that's left to do is fill in any little gaps around the edges with this number 4 round. Push your buttercream down to the bottom and make sure your bag's tight. And then in the gaps, I'm just going to touch down, squeeze and pull out to make some little spiky leaves. And there's no rules to how many you put in, it's just however many you need to cover that gap up. If you don't want to do round spiky ones, you could use a 352 leaf tip and fill in the gaps with a little leaf. Whatever look you want to go for. So the last little gap here. You can make your petals white and your trumpet yellow, whatever colour you like. That's how I pipe a full-size daffodil onto my cupcake.